We can go ahead and get started, Josh.
Oh, perfect. Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining. For those that you can see me on video, I'm waving to you. If not, thank you all for joining. My name is Joshua Haston. I'm with LDG Development. I'll be hosting the presentation tonight. My colleague Chase Kane, who is also on the call, he is also working with LDG. He is monitoring the chat function as well as anyone that needs to ask a question later on in the presentation. He'll help spearhead that effort. Other things to note, we've got people on the call, representatives from Hanno, Leslie Thomas, head of their marketing, Emily May, Elizabeth Radiker, helping oversee these projects, or this project with us, as well as Kenesha Green Ross. And then also calling in or Ryan Flanagan of SEF Engineers. He will be the lead engineer for the project, as well as Michael and Tran of Volume Zero, who are local architects in New Orleans, and Warren Grove and Vadim Kaplan and Tony Butler of Studio A Architects. So we got a lot of people on the call, and thank you all for joining. Just a few ground rules to get everyone know what's going on is this is a public meeting. Myself and my colleague Chase Kane are recording this call. It will be posted on a public website after this, probably Hanno's website. We will share that information. During the call, we would ask that you remain muted. This is make sure that we are respecting everyone's questions and can hear everyone properly. If you are a video caller, please type in your name in the chat function so that we can get your attendance. If you are just calling in from a phone, we'll get your attendance later towards the end of the meeting, especially if you have questions. So with that, I'll begin sharing my screen so we can dive right in. So thank you everyone for joining. Again, my name is Joshua Haston. We're meeting tonight about Christopher Park development. This is in District C. We're working in concert with Hanno to redevelop this property. A few objectives to share about tonight is just to, again, share LDG's mission. We want to share our current proposal for the redevelopment of the Christopher Park, as well as discuss some community benefits and get some design preferences from those of you that are on the call, so we can come back at the next community meeting after reflecting on some of those insights that you guys point out. When we discuss those community benefits and design preferences, we're going to start opening up the chat box at a later time, and I'll give you directions on how to do that when the time is appropriate. Just a little bit about myself and LDG. LDG, we have been around for a while. We've been around since 1994. Our core mission as a company is to provide workforce and affordable housing. We also provide some market rate housing, but we believe that everyone deserves a quality place to call home. We know that right now it's a difficult time for everyone, and now you need housing options more so than ever. So we are all about creating a quality environment for people to call home. And also, we're all about creating a vibrant community that's in line with the community that we are developing in. So in Algiers and on the West Bank, we really want to continue building up and enhancing the already vibrant, great culture and neighborhoods that already exist within Algiers. So we want to create long-term partnerships with those Algiers communities and neighbors to make sure that we're good neighbors as well as benefiting the community in the long haul. Just a little bit more about LDG. Like I said, we were started in 1994. Since then, we have grown and we have built more than 14,000 apartment units across the South. In New Orleans specifically, we have developed the Muses apartments, which are on the screen right now, or if you're on the call, it's located at 1740 Barone Street. This is at the intersection of Barone Street and Felicity, or a lot of people just know it better as a block away from Houston's on St. Charles. So this property was developed by LDG in partnership with Gulf Coast Housing Partners in around 2009, 2010, following Katrina, and we have been in New Orleans and Louisiana ever since. Since then, we've developed around 1,300 apartments across Louisiana. Most of them are in Baton Rouge. We also have projects in Lafayette and Lake Charles. Also, we are working concurrently on another development in New Orleans in the Florida neighborhood in the upper 9th Ward. And so we're working on these projects simultaneously. So we're very, very much entrenched with New Orleans culture, New Orleans development patterns, and really want to continue bolstering that as much as possible. Just a little bit more about this project in particular, just so you can get your bearings. We are talking about, again, Christopher Park, which is just off on the West Bank, just off Charles General de Gaulle Drive. It's off of Wall Boulevard, Vespasian, Merle, and Caladium Lane. So it's again, off General de Gaulle. It's right now it's a vacant site. It is completely already zoned. It used to have housing on it back in the day and was destroyed during Katrina, and so we're trying to rebuild it better than it's ever been. So that is what we're going to talk about tonight. A couple of things, just in general. We believe that this property is going to be a great project for the community. When we redevelop it, we know that we're going to definitely benefit the community by dramatically improving the infrastructure that already exists in the neighborhood, specifically around the site. We know that we're going to bring sidewalks. We're going to dramatically improve stormwater resiliency. We're going to add significant tree canopy. We're also going to add a lot of street and pedestrian lighting to make this area much more safe. So it's going to be a very walkable, connected, safe community as we redevelop it. We're also working to improve our vehicle and pedestrian safety. We know that a lot of the roads around New Orleans need repaving. So this will definitely fix up the roads around here, and it will improve connectivity. Other things that we'd like to do with your permission, of course, we would like to potentially connect this to relay bikes on the north side. We know that Wall Boulevard will eventually have relay bikes along it. We would also know that by developing this property, it's going to further catalyze economic development on the West Bank in Algiers and in the surrounding neighborhoods. We know that this development, it's going to definitely bring construction jobs during construction, as well as permanent jobs, because these places need people to staff them. So it's bringing jobs to the community. Just a little bit about this image that you may be seeing on the right side of your screen. This is extremely preliminary, and we'll dive more into it on the next slide. So again, for those that may not see, what we're currently viewing is a very preliminary conceptual site plan. This has, you guys are essentially one of the first people to see this. It is, again, very preliminary. It is not final. What we would like to do is to build a mix of apartments as well as townhomes on the property. So the property is already zoned to provide these uses already. There should not be any variances with regard to the specific uses or density. Along with these apartments and townhomes, we are proposing in the community to have a business center, to have a gym or fitness center, as well as having a community room for the community of the apartment tenants. But if you ever needed to host another community meeting, you could have it at Christopher Park. Other things, and we would like to get your feedback on this later, is again, the zoning allows for commercial space, and we would like your opinion to know if you think it's a good idea to have commercial space in this development. So we'll take comments on that later. Other things that we'll definitely be bringing with the community is a playground and a dog park. We know that there's essentially a lack of green space in a lot of areas. So we're looking to make sure that we bring green space in any and all development that we have. We know this is good for the community, good for the tenants. It's a good place for children to play, especially if they're on lockdown right now. So it's a great option. Again, we are also going to be adding back more tree canopy. So there is currently, again, no tree canopy on the site right now. So we know that Louisiana and especially New Orleans have a great liking to live oaks. So we'll make sure that we bring back some live oaks. We want to make sure that we have a great, beautiful community for the long term. This development, we know for sure, will be connected via public transit. There are bus stops on either side of the development, and we'll make sure that all tenants can easily access public transit. We're not trying to encourage further suburban sprawl. Again, other things that this community will have will be connected to the existing street grid. We're not proposing to cut up the neighborhood or cut off streets. We want to make sure that this is a walkable community. We want to make sure that it is a safe community. So with that, we know that we're going to be putting back in better street lights, both for cars as well as pedestrians. And we also want to make sure that security and safety is of the utmost importance. So we know that all these developments, all these buildings are going to have secure access. We'll take comments later on what exactly that means, but know for certain that it means every building will have a key fob access only. So that means if you're not a tenant of the development, you're not going to be able to get inside the development. It's going to have key fobs access only. So that makes it safe and secure for our tenants and as well as the neighborhood. And then last but not least, again, it's going to be connected and walkable. We want to make sure that we have a beautiful development for everyone to take part in and further spur economic development on the West Bank. So we'll come back to this slide later on in the presentation when we start taking questions. Just a little bit about the very general timeline. This right now we are proposing to be fully developed and have a grand opening by late winter of 2022. So this project is still a long way off from being open. I just want to stress that. Right now we are going through community engagement. This is the first of probably 2 or 3 community meetings. We plan to start the start the permitting process after these community meetings occur. Again, we're trying to get community engagement and take your opinion on what you feel is best. So taking your opinions, we hope to close on, get permits and close on financing in late winter or early spring of 2021. And again, this is a long construction period. So it'll probably be late winter of 2022 before we start having tenants in the buildings as proposed. This, I want to say and stress again and again, this timeline is very preliminary and it's very much contingent upon receiving financing. So this is the first page that we'd like to take some community feedback on. For those of you that are viewing the community screen, you can see it. See, we've got 6 different pictures up on the page, kind of just gauging general feedback at what we think you might want to see. For those of you that cannot see the screen, you'll be able to view it later, and you can submit feedback later as well. So I guess at this time, if you would use your chat function, if you would please use your chat function to type in the two developments or the two pictures that you think look the best. Each of these pictures we feel like represents what is capable with the zoning. For those of you that cannot see, they are 2- and 3-story buildings, and they are up close to the street, so it makes it more walkable and safe, and very similar to sort of the vibe that you get from other developments in the New Orleans area, other very walkable areas, beautiful developments. So if you would, please, in the chat function, type in the two pictures that you like the best. And we'll wait about 30 seconds or minutes before we move on to the next slide.
And for those of you that haven't used the chat function yet, it's on the top right-hand portion of your screen. It looks like a little talking bubble, and you should be able to type in the message box below that.
Is there a way to get the callers involved? I know they can't see it, but
Yes, we can get the callers involved at a later date, Leslie. Specifically, when we take feedback, I've posted my email address on the last page, so they'll be able to review the presentation, as well as post those comments, and we will make sure we share that. I know that most people are viewing from the phone right now as opposed to a video screen, so we'll take that into consideration, and we'll make sure that we definitely have this slide or a very similar slide at the next community meeting.
I typed in 2 and 4, but that's not my name.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am.
All right.
2 and 4. Okay. Got another 30 seconds and we'll move on. Again, thank you everyone for your patience. We know that we would prefer to meet in person, but we know this is about what we can do in these weird times, the best we can do. Okay, so we can come back to that later. And again, those of you that are on the call, I'll give more instructions in a second for how you can review. Okay. So as I have mentioned a couple of times, we are recording this call. You can, after this meeting, myself and my colleague Chase Kane will condense this call and post a video recording. We'll provide it with Hanno so they can post it on their website. This will be for everyone to view and share, and so you can do that. Also, we're going to take feedback in a second, but for those of you that, again, are on the call that may not be able to view this, you can send comments to me, Joshua Haston, at a later date. My email address is posted on the screen. And if you have a pen or pencil written down, I'll give it to you verbally so you can write it down and email me with comments and questions later on as well. My email address is JHAST, the @ symbol, LDGdevelopment.com. Again, that is JHAST, @ldgdevelopment.com. And so you can send comments or questions to me at a later date, and I'll be sure to respond to those as quickly as possible, as well as if you have comments after reviewing this presentation once we post it to Hanno's website. Other next steps that I want you to know and share so we can hopefully have better attendance at the next meeting. We would like to have another community meeting, and we don't know how the COVID crisis is going to play out, but right now it's probably going to be online as in a very similar format. We can figure out other ways to do that if we need to. We would hope to meet in person at this later date as well, but we'll have to see how the COVID crisis plays out. So we hope for that next community meeting to be in late August or early September. And that's going to give us time to review your feedback that we're about to receive, as well as the feedback over the next coming days once you send it. So now, I guess, to describe what we're about to do, we're going to start the question and answer session. So for those of you that are viewing the call, we're going to start with you first. My colleague Chase Kane will individually unmute everyone who has a question. So if you have a question, I would like you to type you have a question in the comment box or the chat box, and my colleague Chase Kane will unlock you or unmute you in the order that you ring into, and we'll go question by question through that. After we've answered all the questions in the chat, then we'll go to the phone and we'll take questions individually from the phone. And again, for those of you that cannot see, you'll be able to see better at a later date once we post the presentation, and you can email me those comments. So with that, I will open up the chat box. Chase, just let us know. And if you have comments, just type in the chat box that you have a comment. My colleague Chase will unmute you, and we'll let you ask your question. So no one has rung into the chat box yet. If you have a question, please just let us know and we'll unmute you. We'll give that another 30 seconds or so, and after that, we'll start going to people on the phone.
Josh, I'm sorry, I don't see my name, so I unmuted myself. But do they have any, what's the bedroom sizes y'all propose?
So it's a little bit preliminary to say that, but I will say, generally speaking, across all our other developments, one bedrooms tend to be about 850 square feet. Two bedrooms tend to be about 1,000 square feet, and 3 bedrooms tend to be about 1,200 square feet. So all of that is give or take, plus or minus a few feet, but they'll be supportable generally for families. It will not be an age-restricted community. But we welcome families as well as senior citizens, as long as they qualify.
If I can ask another question, is it okay?
I don't see anyone else in the chat box. So with that, yes, the floor is yours, ma'am. Ask your question. And please identify yourself so we can have
I'm sorry,
a
this is
record of
Cynthia.
who's asking questions.
This is Cynthia Wiggins. What is the financial makeup of the deal? Is there going to be tax credit tied to this? PBV units, public housing units, what kind of units?
Great question, ma'am. So we don't know exactly all the sources of financing yet, but yes, there will be tax credits involved. If you're familiar with the tax credit program, we tend to use the 4% program. So this will happen all in one development. The development has also been awarded some project-based vouchers in the amount of about 25% of whatever amount that we kind of end up at with the unit mix. Again, this is we're going to cater more towards 2 and 3 bedrooms, most likely. But again, those townhomes would be obviously larger, and we will have some 1 bedrooms in there as well. We don't have the exact unit mix made up or the AMI spread. We do think that this project will have tenants earning with project-based voucher tenants, as well as tenants, most of the tenants, majority of the tenants will be in the income brackets between 60 and 80%. And that is to meet with the tax code. We would also, I mean, we're very open to having some market rate units. It makes it harder to finance counterintuitively with the programs that we tend to use. So there will be some market rate units, but it's probably not it will not be a majority market rate development.
But you intend to have a few?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm assuming that's just for the financial side of it.
Correct.
Okay. Will y'all be accepting tenant-based vouchers on the market rate units?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you say you don't know what the mix is going to look like. How many 1s, 2s, 3s?
Not exactly. We don't have the exact mix, again, because we wanted to take community feedback. At majority of our developments, they tend to favor the 2 and 3 bedrooms. So if we believe this is a family development, and again, with the financing, and we know that with the current need, we know that there is a major need for 2 and 3 bedroom apartments for families in the New Orleans area. So we'll have majority 2 and 3 bedrooms.
Will there be anything on this property that's going to allow for senior living?
So it will not be an age-restricted community, but again,
Okay.
if you qualify via income, then we are not going to turn you away. We're going to make sure that this is fair and open to everyone who qualifies. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And for this development, we know that we make all of our ground floor units adaptable to serve anyone that may have a disability, and 5% of our units will be built to ADA standards.
Okay.
As well as an additional 2% built for those that are sensory impaired and hearing impaired. So we will have some functionality to serve tenants with physical disabilities.
You talked about the commercial component, the possibility of commercial. What are you guys looking at from a commercial side? Are y'all just going to solicit the community for it?
I'm sorry, what was it?
I thought you guys just going to solicit in the neighborhood. What kind of commercial?
So to be honest with you, it is not our preference to provide commercial.
Okay.
But we know that the zoning provides or allows for that. And we wanted, again, the neighborhood's feedback to see if they would like commercial. And if so, they can voice a preference and we can take that into consideration as we move forward.
Okay. That was all I had.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Wiggins. All right, does anyone else on the phone have some questions? If so, please let us know and we'll go one by one.
Let me ask this, Josh.
Yes,
Is there going to be the possibility for any, and I don't know if y'all guys considered any home ownership or everything on the property is rent?
So again, we would prefer to do rental.
Okay.
We are open to some home ownership. Again, that plays into the financing. As you may know, given your experience, the tax credit program is not the best or easiest program to navigate for home ownership units, but there is some leeway there.
Oh, okay.
Are there any other questions for people on the phone? Just so I can have some feedback for those people later. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. I just have a quick question and I couldn't get the chat to work. I was wondering if you could expand upon like ideas for like climate resiliency, energy efficiency. Are these apartments going to be like up to what standard? And any information around that would be really helpful. Thank you.
Yes, great question. I'm sorry I brushed over that. I usually don't do that, given my background is actually in environmental studies. So every unit on this property will be built to enterprise green community standards. So that is akin to like a LEED program, very similar. So all these units are going to be energy efficient. That typically, beyond the energy efficiency of the units, that also relates to how the site is designed. We know specifically with stormwater resiliency, that's a major issue in New Orleans. So we're gonna have to make sure that the development is built to satisfy those very stringent requirements. They're even more stringent, I believe, than some of New Orleans stormwater standards. So this is gonna be a very green community. And again, by adding more and more trees to the area and preventing as much permeable surface as possible, or impermeable surface as possible, we're gonna try to make this as green a community as we can. And again, that standard is the enterprise green community.
Well said, Josh. I wanted to interject quickly and request that whoever has identified themselves and asked a question on the phone, if you wouldn't mind, can you identify yourself again, giving me your name and maybe your phone number if you feel comfortable with that, or what entity or who you're with or what community you're in?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. You wanted what again?
If you can, if whoever asked a question on the phone, if you could identify yourself and maybe your phone number, what community you're with or organization you're with.
Well, I'm Cynthia Wiggins. I'm with the Citywide Tenant Association.
Chase, I believe the person that just called in is Caitlin Passaretti, and I apologize if I butchered your last name. She is with.
No, you're good. I'm with Housing NOLA, but I am a fellow, and my fellowship ends on Friday, and I actually am living in New York because COVID stopped me from moving to New Orleans, so I don't have a community to attach to that. But I can message you my phone number.
Okay, sure, that'd be great. But I have you down. I appreciate you and Miss Wiggins speaking up.
I guess for those of you that, again, can see, are you guys okay with a general layout like this? We thought it was appropriate given the current density of the area, as well as of the surrounding community. We wanted to make sure we had a mix of housing of multiple types. So we think this is a good site plan, but again, if you have other comments, please shoot them to us. Please let us know, because again, we have not set anything in stone yet. So we appreciate that.
On that parking side of it, how much parking space will be allotted to every unit?
That's a great question. I believe it's a little bit preliminary at this point. Generally speaking, for our other developments, we have about 1.5 spaces per unit. And that really depends on the municipality that we build in, as well as their own standards. If there is any sort of variance, that would probably be the variance that we would apply for, simply because, again, we want to make sure that we're building in as resilient of a community as possible, and we want to try to prevent building as much asphalt as possible. But that would be, we don't have an exact number. I apologize.
And so how many units you guys are proposing on this property again? I'm sorry.
So again, it's a bit preliminary right now. We don't have an exact number. We're kind of imagining, and again, this is within the current zoning, and with all the allowable uses, we're imagining around 200 apartments and townhomes total.
Okay.
We're also imagining these developments, these apartments, to be around 3 stories. So we think that going 4 stories is too dense. We think that this is a more suburban nature, generally speaking, but we want to make sure that we're building an urban-esque development and making sure that it's supportable with the current zoning.
I think the square footage is really good. Considering the last one we had, I thought it was kind of small, but I think that the square footage on these units will be a really nice size unit. So I can somewhat, and I am quite familiar with that neighborhood because I do a lot over on that side of the river, and we do have some property close to it. But I think that the amount of units that you guys are talking about, 200, and the size of the units, I think will really be nice and attractive from what I can see. I don't know that I totally like the way that the buildings are laid out, and maybe because I probably need to just go look at the property again because I haven't looked at it in a very long time. But other than that, I think that the square footage really looks good.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, we do pride ourselves on the quality of units that we build. Again, I didn't say this earlier, but we, as a developer, I know that some developers get a bad rap. You can look us up where we don't have that bad rap. We own these properties for the long haul. A lot of developers just build a unit, they sell it to some insurance company and walk away. We are not that type of developer. We have, to this day, never sold a single development. And again, we've developed 14,000 units. So we want to make sure that we're building something that's built to last and is a good community investment for the long term. Common amenities that we have within our units, again, all the appliances are going to be Energy Star, no doubt. That's going to happen. Other things to note, we're looking at potentially granite countertops if we can make it work financially. So these are going to be very beautiful units. Are there any other questions? Okay.
I know that Leslie had some questions, and I think she can't. I don't know if she's having a problem with the chat, but she's curious to know. She's asking about the 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. Her phone is muted, so maybe you guys might want to see if you can unmute her.
Okay. Let's see. Chase, can you figure out how to unmute all the callers?
Yes. Unfortunately, it's just giving me caller 02 and caller 03 and caller 04. Let's see if we can figure out.
If you could just unmute everyone, all the callers, then we can see which one has the questions.
Okay, I will do that now.
Hi, this is Leslie Ellison, president of the Tunisburg Neighborhood Association. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for tuning in, Ms. Ellison.
Okay, question. In reference to the density, the number of people within the age. So looking at, let's say, if you're having an estimated 600 people, if you're looking at just 3-bedroom apartments, and I know it's going to be mixed use of 3 and 2 and some 1-bedroom apartments. However, that's roughly about 600 plus people in that small area. And so my concern would be we'll be back to what we had years ago, which was Christopher Homes. Based upon when the developers came in, it was the homes were, the townhouses were nice. It allows folks to go in and have that, buy some of the townhouses Some people were renters, but it was a lot of people within a small area. So that will be one of my concerns, that we will not be duplicating what happened 30, 40 years ago. Just looking a little glossier and a little fancier for the time. So that's a concern for my community and I.
Okay. Thank you for voicing that concern, Ms. Ellison. In terms of the density of people, I believe this is about the same density, maybe even less than what was previously on Christopher Homes. In terms of the density of people and potentially, I guess I want to I want to address, again, these are going to be very secure units. I think you and I have spoken maybe one time before.
Yeah.
And I guess I wanted to reopen that question. I believe that you asked about potential perimeter fencing. I wanted to open the floor up to that to see if you guys are interested in having a fence around the development or not. Or if you are, let us know, and we can certainly look into that. But in terms of security, all the units are going to be extremely secure. Again, key fob access only. And another thing to point out is this is not 100% public housing. So I think sometimes affordable housing and public housing get a bad rap, but majority of our tenants, and again, for this development too, will pay 100% of their rent. And so you tend to get I'll just say a tenant that really cares about the community and the property, and it's not a destructive tenant.
I don't think that the issue is about whether it's affordable housing or they're getting some sort of assistance. I think the number of people, when you have that amount, that's a lot of people just next to each other. That's just a lot of people, and I think we would feel a little bit better if we knew the number of 2 bedrooms. And I know you said that's going to come at a later date. The number of 2 bedrooms, the number of 3 bedrooms, the number of 1 bedrooms, because that will determine how many people will be inside of this particular complex.
Okay, we will certainly bring that to the community as soon as we know it. So thank you so much for your comment. Are there any other comments or questions?
Have you guys sought any comments from the district, the 4th District Police Station, about what you guys are proposing on the security side of it? And the reason why I'm asking you that is because there was some issues in that neighborhood. And I think that the question and what Leslie is alluding to, one of the things we want to make sure that we don't have is stack housing again, because we've learned that it doesn't work. And I don't know how many units you're going to have per building, but it tends to not flow well in these kind of communities.
Gotcha. I'm not sure what you mean by stack housing, but in terms of reaching out to the police department, I believe they, correct me if I'm wrong, Leslie, but I believe that we sent them an email where they were on our list of stakeholders. If not, we'll make sure that we have them as a stakeholder listed at the next community meeting.
What I meant when I said stack housing is just that we don't, when you have buildings like that, and I know we have a building with like 49 families in it, and already we're starting to receive volumes of complaints with people moving around, folk on top of them, and the noise that travels and all of that sort of stuff. And that's what I'm talking about when we start talking about stacked housing.
Gotcha. Well, I can say definitively, we don't have buildings with 49 families in them. So I can answer that for sure. But again, talking about the quality of the units, I'm not familiar with what developments you mentioned, but we'll be sure that we insulate and have a very strong and quiet community. In terms of the enterprise green community, I know the standards that we have to hit. I know that certainly influences the building envelope, and I believe that these are going to be very quiet units by the time that we're done with that. But we'll definitely thank you again for your comment. We'll take that into consideration as we move forward. Are there any other comments or questions? Okay. I want to make the best use of everyone's time. I don't want to keep you guys on here all night because I know you guys are busy and have families, and it's dinner time. So I want to thank you all for joining the call. Thank you all for asking questions and representing your community well. If you have further comments or questions, please email me. I will respond to your emails as quickly as possible. Again, my email address is jhaston@ldgdevelopment.com. And after this call, my colleague Chase and I are going to share this community presentation with Hanno to be posted hopefully on their website, and so you can view it and share it there as much as you would like. If you have other comments, just let us know, and we'll be sure that we have a community meeting in late August or early September, and we look forward to seeing you guys again soon. So if there are no other comments or questions, I guess we will adjourn at this time. Okay. Thank you all, everyone. Have a great evening.